Hi, everyone. This is Senia. My name on the screen reads Feb Esclares. I don't know how you can change that.
It's probably because you used the link that was sent by Feb. So I think Feb can change it, right, Feb? Because she changed my name. I used to be Feb too. Yes. Thank you, Feb.
Okay, thank you.
There's also
How come I'm now called Feb Esclares?
the same.
May problem ba yan?
Ma'am, because you used the link sent by Feb, but she can change it for you.
I'll change. I'll do the renaming.
Okay. You can do it.
Oops, nawala.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Esther Garcia.
Musta? Ay. Yeah, I try to attend as many of these as possible kasi, just so I will know what's going on. My induction to PAASE is a very memorable time for me. You know why? It happened on February 1986.
Wow.
I was in a meeting in New York, Stony Brook. Stony Brook, and PAASE meeting. And that's my first meeting with the PAASE. Interesting. And it was, we were there, and it's so interesting because we stayed, my husband and I stayed with Amador Muriel. You know Amador? Physics. And in their apartment in Manhattan. And mga chismoso tiga Manhattan eh. Mga chismoso sila. The wife of Amador, yung wife of Amador is a good friend of the Paeng Salas family. So yung mga katulong ay yung Paeng Salas tinatawagan lagi araw-araw ni Amayat Maya ni Enrile to tell him about what's going on about the and asking Paeng Salas to make sure kasi mag-brad yung dalawa yan Sigmaro. Make sure na in case something happens to him, Paeng to take care of his family. Yun. Kaya ko alam yung mga nangyayari. Kaya nung sinasabi niya, walang pakialam si Enrile dyan sa ano na yan, hindi totoo yan. Sabi ko, pwede ba? He was so afraid for his life that he was calling a friend to save his family in case Marcos would liquidate him. This was during at the height of the February thing. And then another way back, kasi sa Syracuse kami at that time, driving home, I said to my husband, paano ba natin mabalikan yung Marcos na yan? Sabi ko, kasuhan natin, sabi niya. Paano mo kakasuhan in the US? There's a case. The Filartiga, whatever case. It's a case filed by an Argentinian. So, we called up Fluelan Ortigas kasi Flu mas politically astute yan eh. Si Fluelan Ortigas in San Francisco. And immediately, he went to see Melvin Belay. Immediately he went to Belay. Nung una, sabi ni Belay, walang kaso yan, hindi yan pwede, no? Pero when he drove back, hindi pa siya nakakarating ng bahay, eto na yung call ni Belay. As soon as he got home, nag-uusap na sila, okay, we have a case. So we were in the dyaryo of the US, 5 dyaryo sa US, Maine, nandun lang, naka-dyaryo kami, now we are filing a case. So after that, Flu called up all the other Marcos victims na kilala niya in the US. So about 10 of us filed the case. And yun yung naging Hawaii case. That was the start of the Hawaii case. Kasi after we had filed the case, nagkaroon na ng parang kaso na final ng mga 10,000 Filipino, group case. So it was filed in Hawaii. And in fact, na problema kami initially because my husband knew na kaibigan ni Marcos yung huwes sa Hawaii. Judge Fong ba yun or whatever. Sabi niya, naku, i-throw out nila. Sure enough, throw out. We appealed and it went to a federal court. So, yun. That's the story of that.
Thank you for the
Of my PAASE.
Thank you. So I guess you can now start, Elmer.
Nandiyan na ba si Joel?
Wala pa, but I'm trying to contact him. Yeah. Al is here, Al Sirafika is here, and Helen, the Marge. So, but I'm trying to get in touch with him. He's in Germany, by the way. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he said hello from Dortmund. Yeah. Correct.
All right. Well, should we get started? Or, we still see people slowly coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, Elmer.
There's like a German sounding name coming in, so we don't know.
Maybe he also has a pseudonym. Yeah.
Yeah, just let us know.
Are you the host, Mario?
Feb is the host, the Zoom host. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start na tayo?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so good morning, everyone, for this Fireside chat together with the AFSA. So me and Cynthia will moderate this event today. Okay, Cynthia?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Elmer. Hi, everyone. Really nice to see some of the institutions in education and sciences in the Philippines. Really excited to be
Naging
here.
institution na pala ako.
Yes, Dr. Esther Garcia, definitely. Yeah, so welcome everyone. My name is Cynthia Garcia Aidel, or Cindy. I used to work in the Philippine Senate with the late Senator Ed Angara, but now I'm a Canals Marine Policy Fellow with the Arctic Research Program at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I'm joining this call from the ancestral home of the Anacostan and Piscataway peoples here in Washington, D.C. And I'm also the current co-chair of the Advocacy Committee of the Association of Filipino Scientists in America, or AFSA. So in a nutshell, ang AFSA po, we are an organization driven to unite and empower research and innovation through our expanding network of Filipino scientists in the US to help uplift lives of our kababayans. We work to promote social awareness and advocate rights regarding economic, social, educational, cultural, and political interests of Filipino scientists in the Philippines and in the US. We also provide a safe space to discuss trends, activities, and issues from relevant fields, and collaborate with other organizations to protect and support the rights and welfare of the Filipino community. So I'm really excited to help moderate the discussion today and to help with connecting our organization, AFSA, to PAASE. So I'll turn it over to Elmer to introduce himself as well.
I'm Elmer Mojica, although my daytime job here is as a tenured associate professor at PACE University. I also have a weekend job as an adjunct professor in York College, and night to midnight job as guest lecturer of University of the Philippines, Los Baños, teaching all chemistry courses. So I'm tasked to represent PAASE. So PAASE is the Philippine American Academy of Science and Engineering. It is a non-profit organization composed of scientists and engineers of Philippine descent who have distinguished themselves in scholarly and research-related activities. So PAASE was founded way back in April 23, 1980. So the aim of the organization is to promote the advancement of science, engineering, and technology, encourage collaborative work among scientists and engineers of Philippine descent in research and development through scholarly and scientific endeavors. Okay. Right now, I am the co-chair of Research Expert Cluster 4, which is chemistry and biochemistry. Okay. So I would like Evan. Okay, so I'll turn over to Cynthia.
Okay, sure, thanks. Yeah, so hearing both our visions and missions seems like there are lots of overlaps and definitely lots of potential synergistic activities and partnerships in the future. So thanks, Elmer. So we have looks like we have a small group today. So I think we encourage everyone to please introduce yourselves. Please make it short. Just state your name and your affiliation and where you're calling from. Just those things. So I'll drive this and I'll start with Kalai, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kalai. I'm the current co-chair of Education Committee of AFSA. I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate at Columbia University, taking biology.
And Lowell, please.
Good day or good night, good evening, everybody. My name is Lowell. I am a seventh-year PhD candidate at Florida International University. I'm currently residing in Miccosukee, Tequesta, and Seminole Land that we call Miami, Florida. And I'm also the current executive chair of AFSA.
And Dr. Xenia Tigno, please.
Hi, I'm Xenia Tigno. I originally started as a physicist. I no longer am one. I'm working with the National Institutes of Health, and I'm based here in Washington, D.C.
Thanks. Dr. Mario.
Yes, my name is Mario Santo Domingo. I'm the current president of PAASE, and I'm a research scientist at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. So I'm between Cynthia and Elmer right now. I'm in Baltimore.
Nice. Dr. Esther Garcia.
Myself, Esther Garcia, as you said, an institution. I am still in UAE. I turned 80 already, so I decided to retire by the end of the year. But I will have to stay another year in UARM just because they couldn't find a president to replace me. So, but I told them 1 year, they have 1 year. Okay. I'm not a doctor, so.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a chemist.
Chemist, sorry. And then Maria Helen Dayo, please.
Hello, good morning. I am Maria Helen Dayo, anthropologist from the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, a retired researcher.
Thank you. Alsa Rafico, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Alsa Rafica. Did my PhD in chemical engineering in Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and started the company in '96. Sold it to J&J in 2012. Went back to the Philippines as Balik scientist, past president, and also a member of the corresponding member of the National Academy of Science in the Philippines. I'm back here for 9 years, but spent 24 years in the US since '89. So look forward to hearing what you guys are starting out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Alcer Africa. And Marge Peña.
Okay, hang on. Hi, I'm Marge Peña. I'm an associate professor at the University of South Carolina in the Department of Biological Sciences. I did my undergraduate chemistry at the University of Santo Tomas, and I was the inventor of the RECs, so you can blame me for that. I'm on the REC Council, and I was also past BOD chair of the PAASE. And I'm glad to be off of that for now, but still active in the background.
Thank you. And Asta?
Hello, good morning or good evening. My name is Asta. I'm the current publicity committee chair of AFSA, and I'm a third-year biochemistry undergraduate at CUNY Hunter College in New York City.
Thanks, Asta. Jonathan Kopp, please. All right. Well,
Hello,
okay.
sorry. This is Jonathan Koch, and I can't share my video at the moment. I'm new to both organizations, and I'm a research entomologist with the U.S. Department of Agricultural Research Service, and I'm serving now in Logan, Utah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jonathan. And then Mel, lastly. Thank you. Okay, Mel said something in the chat.
Yep.
And she's a med student in Boston. Thank you so much, everyone. Great to have everyone acquainted and know each other during the call. And now, yeah, I'd like to pause for a few seconds here to think about the victims and affected communities of Typhoon Carding or Typhoon Noru in the Philippines. And if you're willing and able, we encourage everyone to please consider helping our kababayans in the Philippines. So, all right, at this point, I'll turn it over to Elmer for a brief overview of today's Fireside Chat. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so in today's Fireside Chat, we would like to make it similar to what GradMap did, I think several months ago, but unfortunately I didn't attend that thing, so I don't know what they did here. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear speakers from AFSA to speak about the organization themselves. Cynthia and I decided to give them 30 minutes for the 2 presenters to do that. And then afterwards, there will be 2 reactors from PAASE. I'm hoping that Dr. Coelho will make it on time, okay, to tell about the reaction that they have with regards to the presentation of the AFSA. And during this time, I would like the audience to post questions through the chat room, okay? And then after that, we're going to have an open forum. So I don't know how long we were going to be here, but Cynthia and I originally intended to do it in 1 hour. I'm just used to this tight schedule, having to teach 3 schools this semester. Okay, so I'm turning over to Cynthia to introduce our speaker from AFSA.
Yes, really excited to introduce to you really great members and officers of AFSA. We have Kalay Bertulfo. She will present first on the mission and history of AFSA and the key highlights of AFSA's constitution and key activities. She's a PhD candidate, she mentioned, in biological sciences from Columbia University, and she's also a charter member of AFSA and the current chair of Education Committee. Her presentation will be followed by Lowell's presentation, Lowell Iporak. He will share his personal journey as the executive chair and how AFSA helped shape him as an individual, personally and professionally. Also a PhD candidate in biological sciences from Florida International University and the current executive chair of AFSA. Kalay and Lowell, please take it away.
Thank you, Cynthia. I believe Lowell will be sharing the screen for our presentation. While waiting for that, thank you so much to PAASE for inviting us in this fireside chat. We're really honored, and we're really excited for your reactions and insights with our organization. Looking forward to possible guidance that you may share to us too, and future collaborations. All right. Sounds good.
Are y'all able to see this? Perfect.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So Lowell and I will briefly share about AFSA's mission, values, and development over the years. And we really titled this presentation as Sowing the Seeds of Growth and Persistence because we are a very new organization and we're actually turning 3 next month. And we had a lot of lessons and also gains, some challenges with this organization, but we believe into like the positive side of it, of how we're actually planting the seeds to develop the community of Filipino scientists here in the US and, provide also some connection and collaboration with Filipino scientists in the Philippines and also the Filipino community in general. So briefly, AFSA is an organization, yes. And next slide. So AFSA, or Association of Filipino Scientists in America, is a community of Filipinx scientists which seek to utilize our collective expertise and resources to support our communities in the Philippines and also here in the United States. Next slide. So who we are actually 200 members. So there are around 200 of us in different stages of our scientific careers who are based in the various states in the United States. Some dots here that I've shown are most of the concentrations of where our members are. There's a lot of us actually in the East Coast and also on the West Coast, mostly in California. And next. As I've mentioned, we are actually part of the different fields. We are pursuing different scientific programs and are experts in different types of fields. So these are some of, I would say more of like the concentrations or fields of our members in AFSA. Some of us are working in agriculture, most of us in biology, and that could be like several branches. Lowell is in ecology, environmental biology. I'm more on the biomedical sciences. A lot of people in public health, engineering, bioengineering, chemical engineering, science policy, neuroscience, computer science, chemistry, and many more. So this is a very inclusive organization. And as I've going to show you in our activities later on, we would see that we have actually developed a lot of learnings from each other because of this such diversity, even among us Filipino scientists. So just a quick history about AFSA. It actually started in October 26, 2019 in a cafe in New York City. So I am actually the founder of the organization. I studied in the Philippines, specifically the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. And for most of the people here who are from UPLB, you know how the culture of organization is very prominent in our university and, the values of instilling change. And that is a value that I have brought with me when I came here in the US to pursue my graduate studies here in Columbia, in New York. So I thought, I didn't really see a lot of organizations for Filipino scientists, especially those who are, young and aspiring Filipino scientists. And as for myself personally, I also had struggles navigating the scientific careers I had to pursue here in the United States. So we thought maybe having an organization that would really help our professional goals, but also more of like the community aspirations would be a great idea. And so we called it an interest meeting, and 11 friends or 11 people came in. And this is where we built the organization called Association of Filipino Scientists in America. And as I move forward with the presentation, I'm just going to give some of the objectives that the organization has built through, the 3 years of its existence. So next slide. Yeah, so as I've mentioned, we have been gaining momentum since October 2019. So in the previous slide, Lowell, yeah, so this is like the first few months that we have been built as an organization. We were already featured in a Filipino-American magazine here in New York City when we hosted our first big event here in, like, this is actually in our department in Columbia University. We hosted a seminar, no, not yet a webinar back then, in October 2019 about environmental science and how it is, important to take care of our environment and take prompt action on climate change. And this is just a screenshot of that magazine. From then on, we have been really moving forward into developing our activities. Most of the objectives that I'll be sharing and also the activities that would be subject to those objectives are actually built during the pandemic, at the height of the pandemic. Because we used to have in-person activities here in New York City, but back in March 2020, when the lockdown started, that also boomed really our membership because it expanded where other Filipino scientists became interested to join, not just coming from New York City, but also from other states in the US. And so if we move forward, here are some of the objectives of the organization and the activities that we have done to really meet those objectives collectively. So for our first objective, AFSA aims to unite, empower research and innovation that strengthens and uplifts lives of Filipinos and expand the network of Filipino scientists in the US. And some of the activities that we have done to meet this are really the flagship program that we have, which is the mentor-mentee program. We are actually now on our 4th cycle of that program, where there are 72 participants and there are more than 30 pairs that we have. And I'm just sharing here some of the, so this is an online program where we pair mentors and mentees relatively in the same field so that they will be guided on their goals as mentees, and mentors could also provide that themselves. So it's usually a 4-month-long program, and every month mentors and mentees will meet with each other virtually or through email to talk about some of topics about resume, goal setting, how to build your network. And we also host monthly workshops to complement those interactions between mentors and mentees. And I'm showing here one of the workshops that we held last month, where Mario was actually one of the speakers. And he was able to talk about PAASE and how you have built your network and community building. And that has really been, a very insightful program or activity that we had for the mentorship program. So thank you, Mario. And aside from the mentor-mentee program, we have also been hosting a lot of webinars to really get to know more about the research that's happening in the Philippines. So as you can see here, this is an event that we had about Ocean Day, which Lowell was actually headed. He headed this activity, and we were able to invite Filipino scientists from Marine Science Institute, UP Los Baños, and even grad student to talk about their research on marine biology. And largely, the organization really hosts a lot of networking and social events so that we could connect more as Filipino scientists and get to know more of our research, but also our identity as Filipinos and Filipino Americans. For the second objective, next slide, please. Yes. AFSA aims to function as a study group for students and professionals and provide an opportunity to discuss trends, activities, and issues from different fields. So especially during the pandemic, we have regular book clubs that's happening. We also have educational discussion series. We have weekly Kumustahan, which is a check-in or support group where we help each other navigate what's happening during the pandemic, but also navigate the struggles that we are facing in academia, and also help each other, overcome those struggles. So we host educational discussions, we host check-ins and support groups, we have workshops, book clubs, journal clubs, really what are the interests of the membership and how we could basically host those interests and make each other learn from everyone. Next, please. And the third objective of the organization is to promote social awareness and advocate rights regarding economic, social, educational, cultural, and political interests of Filipino scientists in the Philippines and the United States. Back into the main slide I shared before, we really see ourselves not just, as professionals or as Filipino scientists, but we see ourselves to be part of the community, and we envision ourselves to be able to use our expertise and resources to help our communities uplift themselves, but also making sure that we are also learning from these communities. So it is important for us to learn what is happening on the ground in the Philippines. We have a lot of collaborations with different organizations on the ground in the Philippines to really educate us on what's happening and give us some idea and insights on what we could do as an organization to help. So back then we had webinars about the typhoon. We have webinars about environmental science and the national situation in the Philippines. And we've been hosting a lot of speakers who are coming from different grassroots organizations in the Philippines. And those have been really helpful educational activities for us, because sometimes we are very distant. I mean, physically distant, coming from, from the United States, and we don't really see literally the impact of what's happening. But it is through these activities that we are able to at least gain some information and insight of what's really happening. And for the fourth objective, we seek to affiliate and collaborate with other organizations locally, regionally, and internationally that appear to align with the interests of our organization. So these are just some of the flyers that we had, like collaboration. As you can see here, we have collaborations with different academics to host PowerPoint parties to introduce our research. We also hosted career panels for professionals in different industry beyond academia. And in the past few months, we have hosted a Kumustahan series or seminar series where we invited different researchers of COVID to talk about, like their experience and major findings that they had learning from the Filipino community, who are their subject in some of their researches. And we have collaborations with the US Embassy, and now we actually have this collaboration too with PAASE. So those are some of the connections that we have built throughout the years as an organization. And lastly, objective 5, we wanted to use our collective experiences, resources to support and advocate for the rights and welfare of the Filipino community in the Philippines. So back then, at the height of the pandemic, we had some discussion groups on what are some best approaches in solving, or at least addressing the COVID-19 pandemic in the Philippines. And we have release statements about some of the best approach about giving aid, approaching it medically instead of a militaristic approach at what has been done in the Philippines. We have done a lot of fundraisers as well. For COVID, we were able to donate more than $2,000 to the Philippine General Hospital back in 2020. And we had a COVID information campaign to talk about, in different languages, to talk about how to make sure that you're safe during the pandemic. And we have also been hosting a lot of fundraisers for typhoon victims. And lastly, we also really use our knowledge from what we know from people on the ground and from the news on what's happening in the Philippines to really use our knowledge to give out statements and opinions on what's really happening. We also host webinars to better inform people beyond our community on the current situation in the Philippines. So we have really statements against anti-Asian hate, against red tagging, approaches to the pandemic, and different repression that's also affecting not just, you know, our community, but the Filipino people in general. And yeah, so those were the objectives of our organization. And I'm leading to the last end of my part here in the presentation. And I want to commend the executive committee for this year and also, you know, the past years for really building the organization and continuing the work that we have done since 2019. These people have really been helpful in leading those objectives. And we're looking forward to continue expanding this organization with several more who see the vision of the organization. And yeah, so these are just like a quick flash of what these committees do. And like next slide, I guess. Yeah, so one thing that we want to highlight about the organization is it's not merely, you know, like a professional organization. It is a community. It is a family to us. And we have built that through our personal connections, but also, yeah, without this organization, we wouldn't be able to connect with each other and get to know these amazing people beyond their scientific aspirations. And we really built a community, a family in this organization who celebrate our achievements, but also are here to support us in every struggle that we had. So we do a lot of celebrations, especially in Kumustahan. We had, you know, like gatherings during the Christmas and stuff like that, and even meet in person whenever we can. And next. And yeah, I guess to end that, I'm just plugging that we are turning 3 and we're going to celebrate it this month. So if you're interested to join us, you're very welcome. We're going to send the invitation, but this is just, you know, showing you what we have done in the past year. In our first year anniversary, we have invited a lot of Filipino scientists to talk about their research and their work in the community. I don't know if you recognize these people, but there's Dr. Sese, Dr. Reyes, Dr. Cuevas, and in our second year anniversary, we were graced by Dr. Francis de los Reyes. So we're really excited of what's prepared for us for our 3rd year anniversary, headed by our anniversary committee. And this is the theme of our anniversary. I'm gonna pass it on to Lowell.
Thank you so much, Kalai. And I think you really gave a good synopsis of what AFSA is. And I'm going to be kind of changing gears a bit into my personal journey and how AFSA has definitely affected me. I'm going to start by saying that I was honored to give a talk at the APAMS meeting last year in Baltimore, Maryland. So in some ways, this is kind of a follow-up of my personal journey for being a Filipino American in science, if you will. But just so we're on the same page, I am definitely a marine biologist and ecologist as a profession. And I'm also a Filipino born in the States. I was born in California. And I want to bring it up because I think everyone's journey is different and how time and social, economic, and material conditions have affected us. It gives us broader perspectives on what is important to us as Filipino scientists. So just kind of give a nice little analogy. As a marine biologist, I like to think of things in shifting baselines and how, for example, a coral reef ecosystem has changed over time. And how has it changed? We used to think that large coral reefs are stable systems, and then a whole bunch of different factors would lead to these changes in that ecosystem. And because of that, our goals of, say, coral reef conservation has fundamentally changed. We thought these coral reefs are stable and homogeneous systems. Now we realize that they're fragile and they definitely are in need of protection. And so kind of seeing how the world works around us, our goals, priorities, and aspirations have definitely also changed, at least for myself. And so I should have given a premise that everyone's journey is different. Some of the observations and opinions are definitely my own and don't necessarily represent those of the entire organization. But just to kind of give what my baselines have looked like as I was kind of going through my professional development and personal development as a Filipino scientist. Unlike some folks here, I did not grow up with a lot of Filipino scientists or Filipinos for that matter, being born in the States. And kind of growing up, I've always thought I needed some kind of representation. I want to have a seat at the table. We definitely need more marine ecologists or just Filipino ecologists in general. And so what happens is like this gradual transition from this individual need for identity, validity, and representation to be part of a very diverse, beautiful group of people who are doing science. But as I've learned over the years, there are definitely issues that are much larger than myself and could sometimes really entail or go back to my identity as a Filipino scientist. And so I concluded that, systemic problems that leads to lack of representation or something as complex as the national situation in the Philippines requires systemic answers that definitely goes beyond the individual. And so I want to talk about what has happened since I presented in Baltimore. Working with AFSA, first as a general member, having some hesitancy leadership initially, but then taking on the advocacy chair committee last year and now taking the executive chair this year, I definitely have learned a lot. But of course, the take-home messages, of course, is as I have developed this journey of being a Filipino scientist, I am still learning. My ideas and goals have changed over time, and I would imagine that they will continue to change. So what I've learned since the talk at APAMS, I've learned two major things. One, we're still advocating for representation, and this is not new. The need for representation has been needed, but definitely goes beyond those of Filipinos. This was an NPR, National Public Radio article that was published 2 months after APAMS, and they were discussing how other Southeast Asians such as Vietnamese, Hmong, Laotian, and Cambodians are also underrepresented in the STEM workforce. The second observation was actually very recent. A good colleague, Dr. Melissa McCartney, did a promotion and tenure talk. And Melissa McCartney is a researcher studying science education at the undergraduate level. And she provided a lot of good research. I hope she gets the tenure. But one of the little snippets that she alluded to is as students develop this identity as a scientist, and as they go through their professional careers, other factors would take over and further influence their retention in the sciences. In this case, that the sense of belonging as a factor tends to take over one's identity as a scientist enabled. As soon as she said that, my mind clicked. My mind clicked because I have definitely felt this way for the past 7 years, finally kind of making it as a graduate student, and not only kind of going through what it means to be a member of academia, but also as a Filipino scientist and working with AFSA, which is fundamentally outside of academia. My politic, my identity, my practice as a scientist and my goals and aspirations has considerably changed from when I started graduate school. But I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. Again, when I started AFSA, I was more on the need for validating my identity and connecting with other folks with similar like-minded interests. I want to go back a little bit on the Connected by Oceans event. As we were developing this event, this is during my time as advocacy chair, we sent out these flyers to listservs in the US and the Philippines. And so far, as I can remember, this seems to be the only marine science related event. Over 40 people attended the event. Over 40. Once you let that sink, that is a lot of people for a webinar event. And we had the privilege of not only introducing these beautiful scientists in their postgraduate school, but also invited a graduate student who was also kind of sharing their perspective, the importance of storytelling and advocacy with their science. And so we were able to kind of bridge that gap, generational gap between more senior scientists and those that are kind of in the student phase of AFSA. And I am definitely in the second participation round of my mentor-mentee program, but I have the privilege of meeting someone who graduated by the time that Leah became a mentor for me. And because I'm in the stage where I'm trying to graduate and apply for jobs, I had to reach out for her again and say, I need help with my resume. I need help with my CV. These are very material things, and they would lead to my probability of, pursuing a job or career further in the sciences. But then kind of going outside, this is still during my time as advocacy chair, providing the space to discuss very complex issues. We've had 2 sessions of the educational discussion series, where on the left, we had a discussion series of an article written by one of our AFSA members, Precious Castillo, who talked about the journey of 2 scientists who migrated from the Philippines and did their work in the States. But then in the second one, we kind of pivoted in a very different topic of parachute science and how parachute science is a manifestation, an element of colonial elements in science. And so we've had very complex ideas of how we as scientists could be enablers as well as resistors to colonial aspects of science. And the history of the Philippines has always been one of repression, but also of resistance. And this is no exception for us as scientists, thinking about where we kind of stand in greater systemic and global contexts. We've had our goals, and of course, our goals have definitely changed the conditions. And this year, I will talk about in a bit, the Philippine elections has affected a considerable amount of our programming, not just after the election, but definitely before. During the campaigning, we wanted to have a webinar, and so we collaborated with ACOM to have a fact-based scientific analysis of the Philippine situation in the lens of scientists. When the election results came, people were feeling all kinds of emotions. And so we decided we wanted to step in. AFSA kind of made a kind of like a check-in meeting that was very intimate and private. And of course, we have spilled our emotions, but something that kind of came up as scientists was a sharing of resources. We weren't just being ourselves in comfort, but also kind of educating each other on what is really going on in the Philippines, in both in the past and in the future. And of course, this is definitely an ongoing struggle, or if you will. And so we've definitely invited scientists from different organizations to talk about the history and economic and scientific perspectives in the Philippines. And this required collaborations with organizations such as the Malaya Movement. And so what kind of challenges have I learned as current executive chair? We are small, we are busy, but there's definitely a need for collective leadership rather than taking kind of like the one strongman approach. No one is immune to burnout, of course, but being able to organize and build relationships with people is definitely going to be important for the collective leadership to happen. And we're also learning that these goals and objectives are also Nice, we have 2 minutes. So our goals and objectives have definitely changed over time, but it definitely goes beyond individual identity and towards community and action. Right, and so in order to meet these goals and objectives, depending on conditions, sometimes we would focus on one rather than the other. Building these programs requires a lot of people power. But of course, if I wanted to wrap things up, organizing outside the workplace definitely gave me a new baseline, and that tackling systemic problems requires organizing ourselves in a collective fashion. And in order to do that, we have to build relationships. It's not an easy thing to do since we're all busy, and some of us are definitely at the more academic high-end level. But I had the opportunity to meet very amazing people wherever they're at, be it undergraduate students or tenure professors. And I want to end by giving a nice plug-in. Our theme for this year is Punlaan, because even in dark times, we are still working and we're hoping to plant seeds for a brighter future. Even in dark times, plants can still germinate, they can still receive water, and we hope to continue building for better days and brighter futures as Filipino scientists. And if you're interested in more science communication aspects, we will have a workshop tomorrow with these 2 beautiful panelists that will probably train us a thing or two about science communication. And so at that point, Kalai and I have concluded our presentation. I'm more than happy to take questions, feedbacks, and guidance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you
Did
very
Joel
much.
come, Mario?
Okay, so to give our comment from our reactor, so we will have first Dr. Senya Tigno. She is the director for associate director for careers at the Office of Research on Women's Health at National Institute of Health. She was a former PAASE president, I think 2016. And after that, if Dr. Coelho will not show up, I will be the other reactor. Okay, Ma'am Senya, you have the floor.
Okay. All right. So when Kalai and Lowell were talking about the origins of AFSA and how they started organizing 3 years ago, it sort of brought me back to a journey also of the PAASE. I think among all of the PAASE members here, I probably preceded them in the membership. So I remember before when PAASE was still a very exclusive group, mostly made up of physicists and engineers. That's why the title was Philippine American Academy of Scientists and Engineers and Engineering. And they did not want to include people who were not in that very rigorous basic science area. So you're either a chemist, mathematician, a physicist, an engineer. And people like Mario, who is a social scientist, was not considered a scientist. Or people in the medical profession were not considered scientists because they were just doctors, but not doctors of science. So that was the origin of the PAASE in the beginning, you know. But slowly and through the years, people have come to realize that really diversity and inclusion is more important than trying to be exclusive. And so many more science areas, and I think Kalai also mentioned this, that they have different science areas that you put in the slides, but I didn't see any social sciences there, you know. So now PAASE includes the social sciences, including economics, for instance. We have areas about museum, anthropology, etc. Because even science organizations such as the National Institutes of Health, which is the biggest organization supporting medical science in the world, has come to realize that sociocultural determinants are also important in whatever area of science you're dealing with. So we have included branches that deal with biological, biomedical, psychological factors as well. And people in psychology will know that parametrics, but metrics in psychology always involve statistics, et cetera, et cetera. So you cannot say that they're not scientists as well. And so recently we also held a summit, which was organized actually by my section on, because the goal of my section, or my role there, is actually for the recruitment, retention, and advancement of women in biomedical science in their careers. So people like to refer to it as a pipeline, that there are women who come in or girls who come into science. Sometimes they are not recognized as such because of their upbringing and the social expectations that scientists must be male, et cetera, and therefore they drop off. By the time you are in the leadership position, you only have a few. Or even if they discovered something, they are usually not recognized. And that was what we were trying to change. But actually, that kind of metaphor is no longer true, because there are many pathways to becoming a scientist these days. And some of those pathways may actually begin by being a social scientist, and then eventually coming into other professions, which are the traditional science areas that we recognize. So I think as an older organization, I would like to impart that thing that maybe you need not be too exclusive as far as what you define as science, you know. And I think it has worked to the advantage of PAASE, because like you, like the AFSA, our goals are also not only to help the Filipino scientists in America, but also to be able to generate interactions with the Filipino scientists in the Philippines and have projects with them, develop both ways technologically, and learn from them as well as they learning from us. And PAASE has been able to facilitate some of these international collaborations, so to speak. And I think ALSE Rafika is here, and maybe would like to also contribute to that kind of discussion later on. Mentorship, of course, is very important. And, you know, I began as a physics major from UP Diliman. I no longer am a physicist in any way, shape, or form, but my introduction to PAASE was also through Ed Padlan, who is also physics, used to be my mentor when I was in UP Diliman as a physics major, you know, and eventually we caught up with each other here. And so that is how we entered into this discussion of what it means to be a scientist, you know, and who should we include when we say Filipino scientist? Which brings me to another area. By the way, from physics, I drifted on into physiology, which is actually a biophysics in many ways. And then I taught in the UP College of Medicine for about a quarter of a century. And so most of the medical professionals in PAASE right now were my former students or colleagues. So I am comfortable in both the basic sciences of physics, because they were my colleagues, as well as in the biological sciences. And when you were mentioning all of these activities and cultural, you know, get-togethers that you had, it brought to mind a meeting that Mario and I attended just 2 days ago at the Philippine Embassy here in Washington, D.C., when we were asked to help organize the 125th Philippine independence here in the US. And since Washington, D.C. is where the embassy is, although there are certainly consulates in California, in New York, you have a big group, because those are where more of the Filipinos are to be found, right? New York and California. I know that when I was teaching in the University of South Florida, there is also a Philippine Cultural Center actually in Tampa. So Filipinos are everywhere in the US, but they are planning on having they haven't decided yet what kind of activity. And this is something where you in New York or California or wherever you are would be able to contribute to, don't you think, Mario? Because what they are thinking of now is not just a Philippine Independence Day, what may be a Filipino Heritage Month. It's going to be in October this year, but maybe next year we can hold it in June. And Mario and I were discussing maybe we should hold the APAMS in June of 2023 to coincide with that Philippine Heritage Month and be part of the whole celebration, you know, where different Filipino groups could contribute to having the Filipinos recognized in the US. So again, both culturally, both socially and scientifically, we have opportunities to meet and greet each other and help each other along the way. Now, with regard to mentorship, I think this is one strength of the PAASE because like recently when the UP College of Medicine, as I mentioned, I used to be the professor at the UP College of Medicine and chair of physiology, we organized the MD PhD program. And one of their first students actually did his thesis here at the NIH under the mentorship of one, again, a former PAASE president who is working in the NIH intramural program. So opportunities such as those, you know, where Filipinos in the Philippines can come over and be trained by a Filipino in the US. I no longer am a bench scientist, although I was for 30 some years, but I do mentoring on a different level because like if there are conferences, I usually am there to advise how to apply for a grant, you know, what makes your grant fundable? What are the reviewers looking for? Things of that nature. And what kind of grant should you apply for if this is your goal or if this is your goal? It depends on what kind of, what's your target and how to find allies in the universities who will support you in the process of obtaining these career changes. You know, and again, I would like to mention here that Mario and I have a very strong advocacy at this moment for having the Filipinos, again, just like your organization, be recognized, you know, separately from the monolith of what it is to be Asian. Because Asians do not represent, Asian is such a big group, you know, and we in the DC area maybe have more opportunities than others to try to influence, but not really. We try at every opportunity to touch base with, say, people in the White House who may be Filipinos, et cetera, et cetera. And that is one of our major projects. And I think when Lowell presented in APAMS last year, he was there when we presented, how does the STEM workforce in the US look like? How many are whites? And then Asians are grouped together, Blacks, Latinos. But the Asians, we are underrepresented as well because we are the URMs. We're not recognized as URMs because every time there is something like an affirmative action, we're disqualified because we're Asians, when actually we are severely underrepresented in the STEM sciences. And so that is, and you know, when you do not have an identity that I think Lowell and Kalai was talking about, having to establish a Filipino identity, then you don't have representation, and then disparities exist, whether it's disparities in opportunities for advancement or even health disparities, because you're not recognized as a separate group. So if the bigger majority are Indians, for instance, or Chinese, they say, oh, you're overrepresented because tech fields are populated by Indians, etc. But actually, how many Filipinos have achieved that kind of success? And so we strive really to have this disaggregation of the Asian monolith into separate groups. And Asians are various colors, languages, religions. There really is no reason for them to group us all together. And I am happy to say that at least at the National Institutes of Health, I think we have been able to get that message across to the leadership that number one, Asians need to be represented because true enough, we are the second probably largest scientist group as Asians, but not as Filipinos. So again, that disparity and inequity exists. And like Lowell pointed out, systemic changes are needed. We cannot do this on an individual basis. It cannot be that you just mentor one and there and here. That is not going to solve the problem. It has to be an organizational change, and it has to be a game changer for everybody. It can't just be training one person or another. It has to be something broader than that. And so with that, I think we are looking, I'm just so amazed that you were able to generate all of these enthusiasm among yourselves, although you were in different regions of the country, for instance. And I think you have established a very nice record of trying to produce cohesion in all of these different areas geographically and scientifically. And we look forward to your being involved more with us at the PAASE, contribute, we PAASE members are very generous towards our graduate student participants. We usually waive the fee for registration when they come around. And although if you're a member, you pay this much for attending the meeting. If you're a student, we usually waive that fee. And we really look forward to having you with us when we celebrate PAASE's next APAMS meeting next year, hopefully in Florida, if there's no hurricane like Ian. Lowell, how did that affect you? You're in Miami.
I got lucky, but I'm worried about my kasamas in Tampa, Orlando, because they were definitely hit a lot harder. So,
so you're not in Tampa now? You're not in
I'm in Miami, so we're like,
you're in Miami, but it didn't hit you. Oh, good for you. So yeah, so that's it. And so next year we hope to have it in Orlando if things go right. And we hope to have you all come. We would welcome your presence, and certainly we should probably put aside a time slot or a session for you, because you are the next generation of Filipino scientists. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ma'am Senya. So before I give my own comment, I would like to ask Al Sarapika, because I think he will leave 9:25 to give his comment. Okay, take it away, Al.
Okay, thank you, guys. I was very happy to hear the summary. Kalay ba? Kalay on the objectives. We're very much aligned. I think you're just a bit, probably a couple of one generation younger in that sense, that we're in our 50s and 60s, and you guys are in your 20s and 30s. That's a perfect match. I think you do the action, we stand behind you telling you that you're wrong. No, but joking aside, I really enjoyed seeing you as a group. I shared sentiments of President Esther, that wish we had a younger group. Although I was fortunate enough that when I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, there was 14 of us Filipinos and 11 were Philippine science. So we already have an instant group in RPI. And then we connected with the organizations in Philadelphia with Lehigh and UPenn, the MIT group in Boston. So it became a very natural social group, though. It's never as organized as you did. So I have to commend you for your being able to clarify what are we here for, what are we doing, what do we want to do, and what do we want to achieve. So all those are very good, and clearly that's a good start. And I always value the network in the sense that it stabilizes you as an individual. I also want to make the similarity on the sequoia trees or the aspens of Colorado. They've existed for hundreds and thousands of years because they all have same roots, and they share that roots and stabilizes them individually. So think of that when you picture yourselves as an organization. And having been part of PAASE and now part of the National Academy of Science, I'm the UST Balik scientist for the last 9 years in the Philippines. I've been here, but I've been there too. I lived my life in the US for 24 years, as a grad student for 6 years, started a biotech company in 96, ran it for 17 years, raised millions, 40 million in venture capital, sold the business. And I did my tour of duty in the US, but I'm happy to share it with you guys. So one thing that I ask of you is do ask for help. Don't hesitate, okay? So Mario's here. He's a witness. Always ask for help because we at PAASE are always going to be willing to help you guys because we see ourselves in you, our younger ones, our younger selves, of course, the young and dynamic ones back then. And then the last point is do make use of the network that you've now found. And we are only one Zoom click away. So you guys can easily, I'm very close to Viber. So I have like 35 Viber groups firing up now every morning from DTI, DOST, UP, and name it. And I try to make time to answer because people do try to reach out at times. So make use of the network. The network's only valuable to you if you use them. Okay. And then the last point that I wanted to make is our ongoing, not advocacy, but my personal advocacy, but more towards where the whole interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary mode of thinking has been surpassed, as Senya has indicated, to become transdisciplinary. And transdisciplinary is nothing but including not only science, engineering, social sciences within academia, but involving government, which already Senya also indicated that. We need policy change in the way we get classified as Filipinos, not Asians or Pacific Islanders or what. We need to be able to distinctly be said Filipinx in that sense. So I know that's an ongoing. There's of course the group of the Association of Federation of Filipino Organizations working on that. I hope we can advance that as well. But thinking in transdisciplinary, which no one told me until probably I was in the middle of it. Doing training for ICOR here, the NSF Innovation Corps for commercialization, because I've been in technology commercialization and utilization for 25 years. And I had my own experience in entrepreneurship, which very few, I can name probably 3 people in PAASE that's gone through that route. So a lot of people have really been very, very much challenged in this area in technology commercialization and being able to know how far or how short or how you go about it in doing it as a scientist, as an engineer, how your life would change and what kind of track are you going to get. Of course, if you succeed, you can retire at 45, like I did, and then you can watch your children grow and also help your country by then to come back here in the Philippines. But what I'm realizing now, you can't do it all as it is in technology transfer. You need not only your scientific network, you need your political network, you need your business network, you need your government network, all of them coming into play as a transdisciplinary team to focus on one problem at a time, because otherwise you'll be too spread too thin and you won't be able to accomplish much. But do try to solve as many as you can. Multitasking or definitely is part of it, but be part of those teams. Again, try to indeed contribute your share. To say the way I think Lowell nicely mentioned it, that it's not a dictatorial or autocratic single president. No, we all pitch in. We all contribute what we can and what we feel like in our own different time points in our careers. So I think that's probably one way of being able to elevate your objectives as well and accomplish a much bigger task that you never thought you'd be involved with if you become a transdisciplinary team builder in that sense. So I'm been building the ecosystem in the Philippines to at least resemble the environment in the US that allowed me to succeed in both science and business. So I've been wanting to do that here. I've been at it for 9 years. I'm a very patient man. I will take another 15. I'm giving it myself a 25-year time frame, but at least have some real working products. So I'm very much in tune with all that goings on in industry and DOST and UP. I'm a consultant for UP as well. So make use of that. You've met me. My name is Al. And again, you can always connect with Mario and PAASE, but we're a big bunch here of very active scientists now. And connected to the government as well as to academia and the funding agencies. I run a foundation on STEM education as well as part of the League of Corporate Foundations. Wanted to connect with Mario and the museums of the local municipalities. So again, throw as many balls in the air and see what sticks. And I hope you do that early on in your life. And if you have enough balls sticking in the wall, and not watching it roll down, then you consider yourself lucky and happy. Thank you. I need to go within 10 minutes, but thank you very much for the time, Elmer, and definitely Sina and Mario. I'm so happy that we have young ones joining us in our crusade. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Sir Al. So I want to just share my own comment. I try to make it as fast as possible. So Kalay and I, we have one thing, two things in common: UPLB and New York City. Now I don't know if you know it, but in CUNY there is a Filipino mafia of in chemistry. I have my postdoc advisor. I work as an adjunct, and there's 7 graduate students coming from UPLB and UST who are there. Before pandemic, we party here in my home, but after pandemic, they don't want to go here. Okay, but we're able to sustain that what we call network that we have. We just stopped during pandemic, but I'm the one who recruit some of the UPLB students from the chemistry. So we have a big community also here in New York City. I like you to connect with the 2 big M. I'm not one of them, although I'm Mohica. I'm not one of the big M. That's Michael Puruganan, which I think you already invited. And as what Ma'am Esther said, Amador Muriel. I think he's still here. The last time I saw him was when Yusek Guevara went here in New York City and met us in NYU with Michael.
Yeah, I brought Gev there, Elmer. I think I live on 62nd and 62nd and 65th Street and 2nd Avenue. So Amador lives 2 doors down. I don't know if they sold the condo already.
Yeah, he was selling the house during that time.
He did.
I said no, I cannot.
I invited him to the apartment on 65th. But I heard that he was doing I think he was with RTU doing
technology
as a balik
astronomy
for astronomy. But that's how we stay in touch, guys. Even though Amador is probably what, 75? Most of the academicians and the national science.
Maybe 80.
80s and 80s already.
80.
But he's a funny guy.
We're all science, so we have something in common. So it's always a good start for us to be able to communicate. So I need to go, guys. Thank you.
Okay. And we even hosted, like what Ma'am Senya said, an MD PhD from UP Manila. She worked during the pandemic. She graduated. She finished with her PhD, and my postdoc advisor has to attend the defense, which she said spending reading page by page the dissertation that was written. And I said, I cannot do this if I know that this is what going to do. I'm not going to host any MD PhD student. But I said that's part of what we call helping our country. Okay, and there are a lot of organizations here. Aside from PAASE, I'm also a member of the so-called PAANE. So this is a Philippine Association of Academic in Northeast. But unfortunately, we're not so active. I tried to call a meeting. Nobody called during the pandemic. And what I observed in your organization, you only not host, I have grad students, you also have undergraduate students. Now, the Philippine consulate here in New York City, from time to time, they ask for speaker, but I cannot give them a speaker because I don't have a Filipino student at PACE University. So I said, I can only give perspective from a professor, but not from a student. So maybe you can connect with the present consul, Tokayo ko, Elmer Cato. He's really a very accommodating person because my wife is also a secretary of a teachers organization here, that they have 3 organization of teachers here. Okay, so ganun kalaki yung ano dito sa New York City. Okay, and then as what Ma'am Senya said, I think mentoring, you have to ask maybe the professors or those are well established already here in the US. I think I'm here because of my mentor. Although sabi nga ng isang UPLB student, when you go to the US, make sure na hindi taga UPLB yung magiging mentor mo. But I'm a product of inbreeding. My PhD advisor, one of them is from UPLB, that's Diana Aga. And my postdoc advisor who is in CUNY is also from UPLB. But I have some other advisor that are not Filipino. Okay, so it's going to help you, and as much as possible, I'm trying to return back by mentoring them, sometimes giving them some sense of belongingness, especially doon sa Buffalo. Dr. Aga always go home during Christmas. So most of the Filipino students, okay, kasi ako lang yung may asawa at anak, we celebrated the Christmas Eve in our home. And when we came here in New York, we also doing that. And maybe one day I will ask you to come here kung okay na yung mag-celebrate dito sa in-person. And the thing that we said, because when you started it in 2019, I forward it to some of the grad students here. And then they said, nakakaingit naman po sila, sir. Ang dami nilang ginagawa. Because most of the time in chemistry, they have no time. Sometimes they have to work during weekend. And that's why the what we call American professors like the foreigners, because they can work beyond the so-called 9 to 5. Okay? Kasi yung ina-inculcate ko sa kanila, there's no such thing as 9 to 5 in research. Okay? You can do research the whole day, or you can show up if you're already done with your research. Ganun yung parang training namin dito ni Dr. Desamero, which is my postdoc advisor. Okay? And I like what you're doing in terms of the advocacy. Okay? Nag-protest ba kayo nung pumunta si BBM last week? Okay, just joke. Because I see that I think scientists should be socially aware of what's happening around us. I think that's all the comment that I have for now. So I'm opening now the floor for any question, suggestion from everyone.
Well, let's hear the young ones. What do you feel like now that you've met us?
I'd like to start, even though I'm young-ish. I'd like to start. Yes, yeah. So as current member of AFSA and also advocacy chair, co-chair right now, really key things. The first one is really appreciate this moment and this opportunity to be able to discuss who we are and what we do with all of you. We appreciate, the wisdom that you share. It's really wisdom and experiences, and just, the willingness to help the younger generation. It warms our heart, and we feel we belong, and we're protected, and we're supported. So we just want to say that outright. And then the second one is, the AFSA, we have a strong army of young Filipino scientists in America, and we definitely leverage on technology and our network and how we connect with each other. So if, again, there's an opportunity there for whatever project we can think about to not just help each other and network among each other, but also help Filipinos from in the Philippines, and people who need it, especially in the Philippines, in the face of climate change and other challenges that everyone's facing right now. So we are also here and ready. So AFSA is also here and ready. Second one is really appreciate the message of the identity, and having that clear identity and clear vision and clear message. And it's something, AFSA being young, being 3 years old, we're definitely still seeking that out. And but we have a clear message, but still it's evolving. But appreciate that message on knowing who we are and the vision and the mission. And then obviously the excitement and enthusiasm is there among the Filipino young scientists, and we're definitely riding the wave for that. And then in terms of the inclusive diversity and accessibility for everyone, I think that we are fairly diverse in terms of the different members. We definitely have social scientists as well, especially with the advocacy focus and the scientific educational focus. We are, so I think on that slide, Kalai added and more because there are other members. So we also have lawyers, including myself, who's dabbling in science policy right now in the executive branch at NOAA. And then, as you know, before I used to work with with the late Senator Ed Angara in the Philippine Senate. So have that experience in science policy, but now PhD and then master's in engineering. But still we have that collection of people who has experiences in the Philippines and also here in the US. But yeah, still excited about what's to come. That inclusive, and yeah, and lastly is, yeah, just take advantage of AFSA and take advantage of this partnership. Whatever it is, and again, we welcome the opportunity to discuss with you more how we can partner in future activities for sure. Yeah, we will have new members or officers coming in soon, but I think the three of us here are present will definitely still be active in the future activities and planning for activities in the coming years, probably. So yeah, that's all from me. And I welcome other comments as well. Kalai, well.
Anyone who'd like to add comment? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can just add, yeah, thank you so much for the insights. Cynthia mostly, I guess, like, gave some of the answers, especially with like the diversity. We do really have some social sciences people too, and that's what we had clarified in the Constitution before, that we are expanding. The STEM is not, like, scientists are not just like the STEM people, but it also includes like people in social sciences and psychology. I guess like just hearing from, you know, from people from PAASE and your experiences, it's really grounding, learning how you all started, and how, you know, like now PAASE is almost in its 40th, or it's now 40 years, and AFSA is still in, you know, in our 3rd year. Sometimes, you know, like the hardship, the challenges of like running an organization can get into you. It's like, oh, 3 years and you're, you know, like you're in a graduate program, you have personal stuff as well. But I guess like just imagining what you have done and what you have accomplished as an organization, it does inspire us as a young organization to keep moving forward. And as we see, like as you all doctors expressed how there's like overlap in our objectives, we are really like passionate with this objective. And I guess that is why we have been continuing the work for 3 years. And just hearing you all here and learning about your personal experiences, the resources that you are willing to lend us, and the insights and guidance just fuels our drive to continue this work for our community. So we're really grateful for that. Yeah, I guess us as graduate students, there are a lot more things that we need to learn, because we are really limited in resources, especially because we are still navigating, at least for me, I'm still like navigating New York City, the US networks, and still in that stage of expanding that network. So being in this space and hearing that you all are very willing to support the organization and willing to, you know, help expand our network. We're so grateful with that. And same as Cynthia's sentiments, I'm really looking forward with future collaborations and the sustained connection that we could have with PAASE. As you said, we are your younger, the younger version of you. So we're really looking forward to getting the guidance and insights that you could share with us as we move on as an organization.
Okay, thank you, Kalai. So we'd like to hear a comment from Mom Marge, because he's a member of the membership committee, just like Mom Senya and myself.
Yes, so we're in the membership committee and we're always looking for members. And I think for a long time, Giselle had actually wanted to involve the youth and find some kind of a classification for those who who are not yet PhDs. And I think we started that at the last APAMS, Mario, right? We had them as some kind of interns so that they could participate in the programs. And I guess you can always participate by presenting your research as a poster. And in fact, Lowell was there at when we were having the in-person meeting last year in Baltimore. And it was great to have him there and actually see the next generation. Because as you know, we're all aging, we're not going to be around for a long time, but it's nice to know that the enthusiasm for science among Filipinos are still there. So we had hosted the GradMap before, and now we have the AFSA. So I think we're on the right track. And particularly for this APAMS, our theme is to welcome the next generation. And so if you could participate in the APAMS, and I think we gave like free registration to the first 100 registrants, but you know, sometimes you don't know how to count. Maybe we can have 150 participants who will still give it to you for free because you are the young ones and the future of the organization. So we would really like to invite you to attend the APAMS. We have some very exciting talks. A lot of them are being presented by some of the very well-known and established Filipinos. I mean, even me, when I started with PAASE, my first meeting was in North Carolina back in 2012. And I was just astounded at the talent of the Filipino scientists that I met there. It really inspired me, even though I was already a professor at that time. So I think having you at the meetings will really inspire you even more. I can guarantee you that. So please participate at the APAMS meeting, attend the sessions. I know you're in the biological sciences. We have a lot of sessions that are in different areas of biological sciences. We have neurosciences. Our social science rec is actually very, very active. We have to give them 2 sessions. So do participate. We'd love to see you. And we're actually, if we inspire you, you even inspire us more, is what I can say. All right. So do join us.
Thank you very much, Marge. Anyone want to say anything before we close the program? And I'll be having my class in 2 hours. Okay, so
I think this was a great session. Actually, I really like the
great
presentations and the discussion. Yeah.
So I invited some of my grad students in UPLB, but the Philippine Chemistry Congress is taking place at this time. And some of them are also teaching, I think, laboratory classes. So from 7 to 1, I think, some sort of. So they were not able to attend. Okay, so if there will be no more question, I'll ask our president, Mario Santo Domingo, to give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Elmer, Cynthia, Kalai, Lowell, Senya, and everyone. I'm really very, very excited about what I heard today. But not only what I heard today, but what we'll be doing next, right?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of work to do. As Senya knows it, you know, everyone knows we have a lot of work to do. Right now, I cannot overemphasize the value of transdisciplinary work that we really need to put our minds to, our money to, actually. And so therefore, I'd like to challenge AFSA to think of projects that would harness, you know, our collective effort from different disciplines. That's number one. Number two, I cannot also overemphasize the value of intersectionality in our analysis of, you know, our identities and how our identities as Filipinos interact with our science identity and our desire to be of help to our country or be of service to science, you know, in general and our country in particular. And number three, I saw that like Kalai and Cynthia were awarded, you know, some honors previously. So congratulations, Kalai and Cynthia. I would like to also announce that 3 of PAASE members have been awarded the Outstanding Women in Nation Service recently. I think just yesterday or the other day, Dr. Pia Bagamasbad of the National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology of UP Diliman, Dr. Aleta Iniguez of Marine Science Institute of UP Diliman, and also Dr. Erica Phil Legara of Asian Institute of Management. This means that we are being recognized. Somehow, scientists are becoming visible, but we are not. I mean, these are really, really scratch in the surface, because we know that in many arenas, many areas of our community, we are hardly recognized, as Filipino scientists. And that's why I have been trying to advocate for science becoming a part, for example, of the celebration of the Filipino American History Month next year, in October, because I don't think there is any segment at all that's devoted to Filipino scientists or the history of science, for example, among the Filipino Americans in the United States. And that's also true within our own community. When Senya and I met with the embassy folks, we didn't think that there was really any attention being devoted to science and scientists, And so therefore, there is a lot of work that we need to do. We are being recognized as agencies, as individuals, but we need to make our voices louder, well known, so that they won't ignore us, right? We know, as Senya said, that we are not considered underrepresented, but we are. And so therefore, we need to band together, PAASE, AFSA, GradMap, Filipino Science Hub, PAANE, and we can also co-op NAFA and other organizations that are more cultural or social in nature, for our agenda to be part of their agenda, so that everyone will benefit, from the contributions of Filipinos and Filipino scientists in the US and in the Philippines and globally. So this is a challenge for all of us. This is a work in progress. We don't know when we will be hitting some of our targets, that we know that we are committed, we are devoted to this cause. And I'd like to invite everyone to join us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, Cynthia.
Nice. Yes. Thank you so much. And again, wanted to, I guess, take home the message that for us, young generation, we can't be what we can't see. And what we're seeing are really great role models, and we appreciate the role models that we see. And again, we will accept and we'll take on the challenge that Mario thrusted and gave us, and we'll take it home and take it to heart and keep it in our minds as we go through the different, I guess, career path that we decide. Again, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate this experience and this opportunity, and all the reactions that were given, and all the comments and yeah, recommendations, suggestions. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. And again, happy weekend if it's the weekend for you, or happy eve of weekend to
Are we taking a photo?
Yeah.
Oh, gallery photo.
The obligatory photo.
I agree with Mario.
Who's doing it?
I will be doing it though.
Okay.
Fab is doing it. Thank you, Fab.
1, 2, 3, smile. Another one po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Salamat na marami.
Bye.
Keep
Thank
talking.
you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Lowell, Kalai, Sins.
We're waiting for
Yeah,
Ian
March.
in here in Colombia.
Yes.
It's arriving in 2 days.
Oh, nice.
Yes, our classes are already canceled for tomorrow. It's our turn, Lowell.
Oh,
Of course.
I hope it doesn't come here.
It's your turn.
No.
No,
Come to
please.
take
Spiraling to our city, Colombia. So we're all bracing ourselves. Yeah,
Stock
just
up
got
on
enough.
water and food.
Yeah, I know.
Batteries. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
bye
you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Bye.
Helen. Thank you.
Doc Elmer,
Yep.
I don't know if you know Carla Concepcion from Colombia. She just got the position here as
Yeah,
a
she's actually the daughter of Giselle Concepcion,
Oh,
the
Giselle.
former
Mhm.
president. Yeah,
Oh,
daughter of Giselle. Yeah,
oh, okay.
you
Yeah,
should
so
get
we're
together.
also